Hello and welcome to Sunset Television. You're watching Big Picture with me, Vishal Dahiya, and today we're going to talk about the first Quad Leaders Summit. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, his Australian and Japanese counterpart, as well as US President Joe Biden came together on Friday in a virtual meeting of the Quad group of nations that is central to efforts to counter not only China's growing power in the region, but also focus on various other issues such as Indo-Pacific and several other efforts as well. Now, the meeting got over, and after that, what has been decided is setting up of 3 working groups to work separately on COVID vaccine as well as climate change and other issues. There are critical technologies as well. Indo-Pacific obviously is one of the key focus areas. We'll try and understand the key takeaways of this particular virtual summit of the Quad leaders, and also how will it impact India's interests, help the entire Indo-Pacific region as well, the other 3 participating countries as well. So let me first introduce to our 2 panelists here. We have former Mr. Ashok Sajjanhar, who is joining us, and also Mr. Alok Bansal, Director of India Foundation, to try and guide us through the takeaways of this first virtual Quad Leaders Summit. Welcome, both of you gentlemen, to Sunset Television. And let me begin with you, Mr. Sajjanhar. Let's try and understand the significance first of this meeting happening in today's date and time, given the geopolitical situation which is there, and obviously the kind of focus areas which have been there when these 4 leaders met virtually.
Thank you, Vishal. Yes, this is a very significant development that has taken place. I would go to the extent of calling this meeting historic, in fact, because this is the first time that the leaders of the 4 countries at the summit level are coming together. And the progress that this grouping has made over the last 3-4 years is quite remarkable. Just going back into the history, it came into being. These 4 countries came together in the wake of the tsunami crisis that took place in December 2004. And the meeting at the senior official level took place in 2007 for the first time. That was also on the margins of the East Asia Summit in Manila. But immediately after that, there was a démarche from China to all the 4 countries asking whether this was supposed to be an anti-China grouping in the making. As a result of that, both India and Australia went to great lengths to placate and assuage China's feelings that it was not a security or defense architecture that was being planned. Okay. So nothing happened on this for the next 10 years till it was revived in 2017, again on the margins of the East Asia Summit by President Donald Trump of the United States. After that, it met for a few times at Joint Secretary level, and the first time it met at the ministerial level was in 2019, when it met on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly session in New York. But what is truly remarkable, Vivek, Vishal, is that over the last 1 year, it has taken 2 ministerial meetings, one in October last year in Tokyo, when the foreign ministers of all the 4 countries traveled to Tokyo and had a meeting there, and that was a very far-reaching meeting. And then soon after President Biden was anointed as the President of the United States, the first meeting, of course in virtual format because of the circumstances today, took place in February, on 18th February. So after that, for within, let's say, less than 2 months, that President Biden has been sworn in as the president, for this summit level meeting to take place, I think this is truly remarkable, because it really sends out a very clear and a strong message, not only to China, against whom basically, when countries talk about a free and open Indo-Pacific, they don't mention China, but it really implies that this is acting as a bulwark against China, as a pushback against China. So all these 4 countries take this increasing belligerence and muscle flexing of China very seriously to get together within a short period of time after Biden's inauguration, and meet and discuss how they can collaborate further.
Okay. Indeed, there it is. Mr. Sajjanhar, you've aptly summed up not only the entire journey of Quad so far, but how there have been several efforts to, take it to that particular level where we stand today in terms of the first virtual meeting of the Quad leaders there, and a lot of tangible outcomes also. Before I move on to, Mr. Alok Bansal, let's listen into what exactly is the summary of key takeaways, which is being explained by Indian Foreign Secretary there after the meeting got over.
As you know, since President Biden took office, our Prime Minister has had 2 conversations with him. Today's summit provided opportunity for a detailed exchange with President Biden and the other Quad leaders. At the meeting, the 4 countries emphasized their commitment to the principles that unite us and underpin all our national experiences, our shared belief in democracy, pluralism and market-based economic principles. We are all committed to a free and open, inclusive and rules-based, secure and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. This is a region that is home to all 4 of our countries and to many partner countries, including, of course, our friends from the ASEAN. As you're aware, the approach for our engagement with the region was enunciated by the Prime Minister in his landmark speech at the Shangri-La Dialogue in 2018 in Singapore. And the vision of Sagar, or security of, and growth for all in the region, was also enunciated by the Prime Minister. In his remarks at the summit today, Prime Minister Modi emphasized that the Quad is a partnership for global good. Today's summit saw the Quad leaders adopt a positive agenda and vision, focusing on contemporary issues such as vaccines, climate change and emerging technologies. Prime Minister said at the summit today that he saw this positive vision as an extension of our ancient philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which, as you know, regards the world as one family. At the summit, the leaders sought to strengthen the moorings for peace, stability and well-being among the people of the Indo-Pacific and in the global community. Their discussions also extended to post-pandemic recovery, resilient supply chains and maritime security.
Okay, so there it is. We heard the Indian Foreign Secretary talking about what exactly transpired at the meeting between the leaders. The key takeaways there, Mr. Bansal, I'd like to bring you in here. There are a few keywords. One is secure and peaceful Indo-Pacific, rule-based Indo-Pacific, and also, vaccine, emerging technologies, and climate change.
See, all these 4 are extremely important. And the first point is open and peaceful Indo-Pacific, where rule-based order needs to prevail. This has been, of course, the demand of democracies like India and US for a very long time, which have been propagating freedom of navigation and have been protesting China's encroachment into South China Sea and China's attempts to convert it into internal waters, thereby threatening the freedom of navigation. So I think without mentioning China, this particular statement clearly points that we are committed to a rule-based international order in Indo-Pacific, which specifically means freedom of navigation in South China Sea. Now, coming to climate change, which is a very, very significant departure from Trump administration. Now, President Biden not only has convened this summit meeting within 2 months of his annotation, but also he has made a drastic change where climate change has acquired a center stage. From what was the state when President Trump had actually walked out of climate change commitments which United States had taken. As far as emerging technologies are concerned, I think the China's recent leaps in this front, I think is being sought to be countered by these 4 countries coming. And then that brings me to vaccine. And that is a very important facet where Prime Minister talked of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, because India has now emerged as the vaccine production hub for the global community. And the aim is to produce vaccines in India, which are developed in US, financed by US and Japan, and supported by Australia. This would bolster India's vaccine producing capacity so that countries, virtually entire global community, can be serviced by vaccines which are produced in India. And that would, I think, show to the world. And I think some of the semantics are very, very important, where President said it's nice to be within friends. democracies, open societies. These are the things which countries like China are not. So that is what is important. And I think without mentioning it, I think we have moved forward. And this summit, I think, is the pinnacle of whatever has happened as far as Quad is concerned till now. And from here onward, I think we will see these four countries coming closer and closer.
Okay. Indeed, this is a very, very significant movement out there. And Mr. Sajjan, your views there on not only these key takeaways, but also, the way Mr. Bansal pointed out, the semantics of the entire meeting, the kind of language which has been used by all four leaders trying to complement each other. And also the fact that it is also not only just about Indo-Pacific, but also other areas, for example, vaccine development, where India has already, demonstrated its prowess.
No, you're very right. I think, yes, words are very, very important because I think the starting words of Prime Minister Modi when he began addressing, he said it is good to be amongst friends. So, sending out this message very, very clearly and very, very strongly. And then he spoke also about that we are joined together by our democratic values, freedom, pluralism, justice. So I think this is definitely sending out a message to the country that it was destined to, that it was required to. As has been mentioned, without mentioning names of any country, but the whole raison d'etre of these countries coming together, after a 10-year interregnum from 2007 to 2017, was basically because of the increasing, growing assertiveness of China. And this has become so much more over the last 1 year. The whole world has seen, whether it is the wolf warrior diplomacy, whether it is the mask diplomacy, whether it is the weaponization of critical supply chains, of medical equipment, whether it is in terms of the non-transparency of the origin of the virus. So the credibility of China has gone downhill very, very strongly over this last 1 year. And after that, in addition to that, it has been flexing its muscles all around, whether it is ramming the fishing trawlers of Vietnam, killing some of the Vietnamese fishermen, or it's threatening entry into its threatening patrolling of the East China Sea, threatening Japan, its enunciation of the new Coast Guard law, its aggression against India, its violation of its commitments in Hong Kong. So across the board, China has been violating its global commitments. And I think that is what is really the glue that is bringing these countries together. And all these statements about having a free and open and rule-based, stable and secure Indo-Pacific is really sending out a message that all these, the belligerents of China will not be taken lying down. And in addition to that, so, as far as maritime security and the security architecture, that continues to be very, very central. But I think what the leaders also thought that to make make it more acceptable and increase the credibility of this organization, it really needs to spread out in some other areas where other members, which are not other countries which are not members of the Quad, could also be associated with this. And I think it is in that context that whether it is the vaccine diplomacy, where India has already done extremely well, sent out our vaccines to more than 70 countries of the world. And now there will be increased capacity that will be generated within the country. And it will bring further what India's predominance as far as this area is concerned, this field is concerned. Also in the area of emerging technologies, because whether it is artificial intelligence, whether it is 5G, or it is robotics, these are all areas in which China has made huge leaps. And it is also announced that it is going to overtake the United States by 2035. So I think these countries decided that something needs to be done, and all of them need to pool their resources together so that a joint challenge to China can be posed in this significant area also.
Okay, definitely. Definitely, pooling of resources is seemingly the underlying theme there. Let me bring in Mr. Bansal back here again. Mr. Bansal, if we have to juxtapose, these key four takeaways or the key words which were there, which we were earlier talking about, the vaccination, the vaccine diplomacy, obviously, that is one part where India has done a lot in the past few weeks and months. Also, if you're looking at the emerging technology part, the Indo-Pacific region and the climate change area as well. So if you're juxtaposing this with the Indian vision as well as India's strategy and needs there, how do you see things moving ahead from Indian perspective in all these areas?
Firstly, we need to understand that this particular summit comes at a time when India-China relations have been tense because of what happened on the border. And from that point of view, if you look at it, what we have talked about Indo-Pacific is very, very significant because it talks of rule-based international order, that what we have been trying to say. As far as vaccine diplomacy is concerned, it's extremely important because this can be countered against China, because China is perceived globally as a country which gave them the pandemic. And here is India, which is actually providing them with a succor. We already have 2 vaccines which are flooding the globe. We hope that Sputnik being manufactured by Dr. Reddy's comes within a few days. And then maybe after some time, we could have another vaccine as per the ICMR, that is Zydus Cadilla's vaccine, which is also going phase 3 trials. Now, with 4 or 5 vaccines which should come through and funding coming from US, Japan, we would really be virtually be providing vaccines to the entire globe. So it will be a very, very significant thing. And what we are talking of emerging technologies, because at a time when Huawei's 5G is being countered globally, artificial intelligence, where China is making huge strides, we are trying to counter them. Climate change is another thing where China has contributed a lot. China has now started dismantling its coal-based power plants, but then relocating them to Pakistan, Bangladesh, and countries like this, thereby polluting these countries' climate, and I think contributing to climate change. Another facet which we need to understand is that these countries coming together have talked of openness, democracy, secularism, pluralism. And it comes at a time when China has reneged on all its promises. You have seen what has happened in Hong Kong. The Chinese citizens who have actually been whistleblowers on what happened as far as COVID-19 is concerned have been prosecuted. So anybody who brings out truth from China has been prosecuted. You have so much so that even the Chinese businessmen like Jack Ma have actually been interned and have been sent to re-education camps. You are seeing what's happening to Uyghur minorities, what is happening to Tibetans. So contrast that with what has been said in this particular conference, and you see that these countries which are bound by pluralism, democracy, openness, rule-based orders are what China is not. And I think that is where I think that is very, very important. And this particular conference, as I said, will put enormous pressure on China. Let's see how it says. And this is very clearly visible from the reaction that has come in Chinese media as far as this summit is concerned. If you see the comments in Global Times and other Chinese media, there have been a knee-jerk reaction to this particular summit.
Okay, definitely. Let me bring in Mr. Sajjanhar here again as well. And Mr. Sajjanhar, if you're trying to understand and if you're trying to look at the future roadmap for this grouping, this grouping of 4 nations, which is known as Quad, and as one of the leaders in their opening remarks said that, this can, or rather this will make, this summit will make Quad a sort of a force for global good. So it's not only going to be limited to Indo-Pacific region. We're talking about the issues here, such as climate change, such as the vaccination, the vaccine production, and obviously emerging technologies as well. They will have a larger impact on other nations and the entire world community as well.
Absolutely, you're very right, Vishal, because this is exactly what Prime Minister Modi mentioned in his opening remarks, that Quad has emerged as a force for global good. And he said when all the countries are coming together and all the decisions that they take, they will have a very positive impact as far as the world is concerned. I think right at the beginning of the program, Vishal, you had mentioned about the changing geopolitics, not only in the Indo-Pacific, but in fact around the world. And that is where we see that China has emerged as a threat to the democratic systems around the world, because China has been trying to, the conflict between the United States and China, it was not only limited to trade, it was not only limited to technology, it was not only that technology from American companies was being forced to be revealed when these companies set base in China, but it was also a contestation between two ideologies, between two systems of governance. Because the narrative that China was trying to float around was that the authoritarian system, the communist system that is prevalent in China, is much superior to the democratic systems of governance. And it gave examples like the most prosperous, the richest, the most powerful country, like the United States, has not been able to handle either the COVID-19 pandemic successfully in terms of health issues, nor even in terms of economic issues. Similarly is the case as far as the European big powers, democracies, and rich countries are concerned. Okay. And as compared to that, if you look at what China has been able to do as a communist country, it has been able to control the pandemic, and its economic performance has also been much better than of all the other democracies. So this is the narrative it was trying to spin. And I think the four countries coming together is sending out this message very clearly that these values that the democracies espouse and promote, these are very important values. And this is the rule-based international order that we need to preserve rather than go the China way in terms of supporting an authoritarian system and having a makeover as far as the global order is concerned.
Okay, definitely. The message is pretty much clear out there about the importance of democratic values. Let's take a quick concluding comment from Mr. Alok Bansal here as well before we bring this discussion to an end on the future roadmap of this grouping, Mr. Bansal, and the significance as well, given the key takeaways of this, leaders summit here.
This is a very significant summit, and this, as I said, will bring these four countries together. And the key takeaway is what Ambassador Sajjan Har said, because in the short time frame, China had tried to propagate to the world that its authoritarian system is far better than, quote unquote, the chaotic democracies, where it actually pointed to transition of power in US and as far as US's handling of pandemic. But both have been countered. Now you can see that here is a democracy like India, which is supplying vaccines to the world at nominal cost, and it's actually given them as aid to a large number of countries, whereas China has not been able to do so even for its closest allies. So Definitely. It shows the commercial concerns and transactional leadership of China. At the same time, how China has been trying to mask the truth, where its own citizens have been punished for speaking the truth. That, how it has actually gone back on its commitments to Hong Kong. So this has actually shown to the world what China is really. And I think at this juncture, the coming together of four democracies gives an assurance to the democratic world, gives a ray of hope to the world that this is the way ahead. The world needs to go towards democracy, the pluralistic democracies, rather than a totalitarian one-party regime, which crushes dissent, which doesn't accept rule-based order, neither internationally nor internally. And I think this probably will lead to the growth of democracies. You will find, especially for India, which has been constrained for funds and things, like coming together of all these four democracies will see India emerge as a counter hub for technologies, new technologies that have been emerging. For quite some time, China has been emerging as the hub of new technologies. Now, India, with the support of other democracies, should emerge as a counterweight to China on the global arena. And I think these four countries in times to come will lead the globe on the path of democratic reforms and democratic support for the countries which are actually following democratic norms.
Okay, there it is. Thank you so much, Mr. Alok Bansal, as well as Mr. Ashok Sajjan Har, for sharing your views and insight on this very important development which is happening. That is the emergence of Quad as a grouping of nations in the changed geopolitics. Quite important, the virtual summit of leaders which has happened on Friday, and significantly the key takeaways also there point out to a lot of tangible results which can be seen in the near future. We'll come back again and bring you a different topic with a different set of experts out there. Till then, keep watching Sunset Television. Thank you.